People, you don't think I see you crying in your cars, but I do. Sometimes I can feel it at a red light, someone at my side trying to muddle through. See them wiping their eyes in their rear view, like black hole sun in the sky. Why the fuck won't you come when I need you? Well, this moment in time is as close as we'll be and as far as I'll meet you. Two windows in between us, new moon in the house of Venus. One stranger who sees you and reads your features knows that your alibi might be tight, but it's not quite leak-proof. So if you're sitting at the light and you're crying in your car, just know that I see you. And it's a 50-50 that I'm bloodshot, gun-shy, once bitten, twice tried, ribs pried wide to the sky till I'm see-through.
That's you, in case you don't recognize yourself.
You don't think I see you struggling to breathe, but I do. I see you stumble in your everyday grief like I do. I try, but I do. I'm twice bitten too. My mind's split in two. My knuckles bright white from the 10 to the 2. And the song in my head is the theme for a fugue, a state of decay through the filter of corporate news, where they edit the grays and the blues. They whitewash the brown till they drown out the natural hues. And then it's just another fact to refuse, that the corporate ladder's for hanging the company noose. Consider it one of your perks, after all it's communal in use. So you can come and hang till your legs go limp and they're shaking you loose. Now you watch 5 co-workers opt for the alternate exit, neatly suspended above where you wolf down your food. And your company gets its incentives embellished by harping on wellness, suggesting you'd best take time for your mental health after your 14 hours are through. Like we gave you a bottle to piss in and fixed up a noose on the crossbeam. Christ, what more can we do? So if you struggle to breathe any moment that you aren't asleep, then remember, most of Americans fear for their savings, fear for their shelter, fear for their babies. You aren't the fringe of exception, but rather a perfect example of capital's rule. And you're far less alone than the ruling class tells you is true. You're far less alone than the ruling class tells you is true. I see you crying in your cars, but I do. False alarm, I thought that help was here. But it was my own reassurance bouncing round 100,000 times in my own ecosphere. If every time you speak you keep it off the record, consequently you can keep your record clear. And if you mute the speech that shakes your frail beliefs, you only seek to insulate your image and continue down the stream in the direction clout and credit steers. Directly from your mouth into am I the asshole Reddit's ears. Directly back into the greasy pockets of some Gates Foundation financiers. And then directly back into the frantic final thoughts of early trial Neuralink volunteers, staring at the numb and mumbling vacancies where recently had been their peers. Half of whom are glitching with the memory stuck on pause, and half have zero fucking clue just who they are or why they're here. It's been said that fear is all we have to fear, but that was back before the Basosphere condenser came along, distilling concentrated fear that's diamond pure, crystal clear, oppressor strong, and woven into every single article you read and song they let you hear. And then Elon heard that Jeff enhanced our fears by 86%, and he said, hold my beer. And not a single sheep among the herd would turn their head or say a word, cause they were all too busy begging for the shears, begging for the muzzle, happy just to guzzle, feed, and watch a screen for all their years. Man, to each his own, can't afford a home, but they'll let you have your cozy little ecosphere. Where there among your own devices you can break the seventh seal, overthrow the oracles and slay the seer. All the tomes were burned and all the lips were seared. Shut your eyes and all our lives just disappear. Now blink 'em twice. Welcome to your ecosphere.
Idolatry, that's just fake. And all that wallowing that you tolerate, that's not faith. The kings of colony watched autonomy make our graves. The kings of colony know no policy, only rape. Now once you fall asleep, it won't bother you what they say. But the kings of colony, while they slaughter, they still complain. And we say, please color me, still too solemnly, still too plain. All hail economy, praise the pharmacy, seas in flames. They're buying up Hawaii, and the smoke's not even cleared. Those vultures smelled the fire and an enterprise appeared. Investment opportunities where melted down communities leave vacant space BlackRock has been lusting for years. The council meets in private and they don't discuss survivors. Concerns among construction groups are all Lahaina hears. They'll wander through your city with this mocking sword of pity next to Oprah and her camera crew who tore the Trail of Tears, where footage flows as freely as the stream of liquid steel and the pools of pure aluminum that trickled down your wheels. And Biden's here to say he knows exactly how it feels, cause he had a kitchen fire once and had to miss a meal. And people still believe that piece of shit deserves your vote, like he's not why supplies are being smuggled in by boat, like he's not why our citizens were forced to stay and roast. And he can't unfreeze your funding, folks, cause Azov needs it most. I'll bet my every dollar Biden watched it with a smile. I'll bet he knows the whereabouts of every missing child. He's just the kind of man who lives to trample something tribal, collecting culture's corpses just to throw them on the pile. Like he and all his buddies didn't dream about the day when those who dared defy the donor class were cleared away. When home insurance triples and you can't afford to stay, and your land falls to the hands of those whose windfall fan the flames. The state will take Lahaina and they'll bastardize its name, and tourism will swarm it all the same. You see, the state we left Lahaina shows the ground rules of the game, the planes that in the night ignite the planes. And if questions raised that reckon the potential use of lasers, I suggest you take a closer shave by way of Occam's razor. And if those civilians stood between this country and its gains, then there's really nothing further to explain. Because you may know this already, if you truly know our past, but it ain't the first occasion and it will not be the last, where Americans are kettled in and made to bear the blast, are barricaded in and left for ash. How many in Lahaina now are lying there awake and still can hear the city we left leveled in our wake? They still hear all the people that we let the fire take, instructed from above to stay in place. So look to the horizon, cause a fire comes for you. Desire made incarnate of the power-hungry few, who instructed the police to not let anybody through, to barricade them in, and so they do. Forced awake, I know they wrapped you in the warmest chains, and I know they're so hard to break. You only said what you were made to say. I can't imagine how you feel today, now that you're watching as it caves away. While you were telling us to keep the faith, I bet you wondered why they made you wait. Ooh, I bet you wondered why they made you wait.
Pity not the vultures, they've enough to eat. Pity not the structures laying at your feet. Cannot see the sky, but there's this rainbow in the creek that spells pity-free speech when we can't afford to speak. That's Agenda 2030 on some early release. It's just our policy of never-ending chemical leaks. That's the cholera awash in your embedded beliefs. It's the billionaires who tell you what you'd better believe. And sugar, if you don't agree, then that's what we call extreme. Now if that isn't fascism, I'm going back to sleep, 'cause words have lost their meaning and I'm trapped inside a dream where we...
Who are these people?
Who are these people? What's up, everyone? Oh, it's Tuesday night already again. I can't believe it. What's up? It is Indy, in case you can't read or can't hear. If you're on the podcast, you definitely can't read it. So, hi, everybody. It's the last Tuesday night in May, and there is a ton of stuff going on, but I'm going to make this show mostly about fuck Israel. What a surprise, because we haven't been doing that enough lately, but we're going to keep doing it because there's so much happening. They're trying to hit us from so many different angles at the same time that it's impossible to possibly pay attention to it all. And the fact that I'm going to be able to dedicate this 2-ish hour show to mostly what they're up to this week, it's a testament to just how fucked up they are and how they are involved everywhere, that it's touching everything and it's making a mess everywhere it touches. So we're going to talk about what happened to the Flotilla people. That was horrible, and it was done on purpose. It was done in order to shock and to get people angry, and it worked. So we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about Lebanon, because not enough people are. Some people are, for sure. Not enough. And they're just destroying 3,500-year-old cities, and we're going to show some footage of that. We're going to show that there is an organization doing the work to break down exactly who is a part of AIPAC, and that's an interesting and fascinating bit of research we're going to look at. We're going to look at some old passports and some old paperwork that proved that Palestine absolutely did exist as a place and as a country, you know, that issued passports, and we're going to show some of those. And then, of course, we're going to talk about Gaza, because we can't take our eye off Gaza. We're going to show some before and after footage there, and about the fact that there's a sharp decline in aid entering, which is not good. I'm going to have a lightning round, and we're going to talk about the stupid DNC autopsy for about 5 minutes. Thank goodness we're going to talk about Kilmar, Abrego, Garcia. We have some good news about him. And then an account that I've been following a long time, Conspirador Norteño, found in a bot network. And I've covered a couple of their articles before. But this one actually affected people I know on Facebook that fell for this. Fell for it again, because it was a good botnet. Then Robbie Yeager is back and actually publishing. I've been talking about Robbie, and Robbie actually published a couple articles this week, and we cross-posted one of them. I thought both of them, but I don't see one in a newsletter. I'll link to that. Okay, so before we get started, I like to do this. Support independent media, because we need it more than ever. I'm so proud of everybody, and you know, the size of that board that's grown. I watched a video from a couple of years ago where I showed a slide like this, and there were not nearly as many names as there are now. And I'm greatly appreciative of the fact that we have grown. And we are continuing to grow and want to continue to grow. So if you are able to, at a means, please join that board by subscribing to any one of those places. If you give on Cash App or you tip on ko-fi.com/IndieNewsNetwork, or you go to paypal.me and /IndieNewsNetwork and you give there as friends and family. You subscribe monthly over at patreon.com/IndieNewsNetwork, or you subscribe on Substack at Indie Media Today, which is what Hans Klein did, or over at INNnewsletter.com. Some people have done that too recently. And then also you can tip one time or as much as you want over at IndieNewsNow.com, which is great. And I appreciate everybody doing that however you can. And if you can't, totally understand. It's really tough right now. Share the show. Share it on any social media. Share it. Text a link to your friend to be like, hey, check this out. Somebody that would actually need to hear all of this. That doesn't know about what's happening in Lebanon. That doesn't know what's happening in all over in Gaza. And how much corporate media is gaslighting. That didn't know about what happened with the Flotilla. Before we get started, Steve Gill breaking: an Israeli news channel just exposed a massive pedo ring of Jewish Israeli settlers from Gush Etzion. They have been graping and more and worse hundreds of young children for over 25 years. Oh, that's wonderful. Thanks for sharing that. That's going to fit in with our theme of just how awful, barbaric, and monstrous the IDF can be, and Israeli citizens that support this can be. It is a weird time right now to be covering news, I have to say. You know, there's no blueprint for how to cover this, really. A live stream genocide where we're seeing body parts and the worst horrors you can imagine on a daily basis right on our phones. So let's get going. We're going to talk first about the Flotilla people, and we'll talk about what happened to them. So we know that the people who took the Flotilla, which was on a boat from, I think it was Spain. They were going all the way across to Israel, you know, to Gaza to try to break the siege and break the blockade. They were stopped 700 nautical miles out. And some of them were kidnapped, taken prisoner. This is who we're going to talk about. Others, they just disabled the boats and left them stranded at sea. All those boats apparently have now restarted and are back on their way and on the move. Oh, Vicky, yeah, this, you know, I got to give a trigger warning that this is going to get graphic tonight. So if you are sensitive to this stuff, this is going to get bad. So these are from the Freedom Flotilla's Instagram. These are the backs of there were broken bones. There were a lot of bruises. There was a lot. It was really bad. So let's talk about Tiago Avila. Now, on top of that, that's when they arrived at Istanbul. So some of them arrived there after being discharged from an Israeli prison where they were tortured, where they were treated like animals, where they were hogtied with their hands behind their backs and put in stress positions for hours on end. It was horrible the way they were treated. And Ben Gvir personally went there and harassed them to their faces and screamed at them and made them say all kinds of stuff. And if they didn't, they got boots to the neck. And just, you know, this is the kind of stuff that they told us the Nazis did. Not saying that that's Nazi behavior, but it sure sounds like it. Now, on top of it, okay, in front of their families, this is one of the Flotilla activists who was beaten himself, a Brazilian by the name of Tiago Avila. We talked about him before. He was one of the two that was held and tortured. He's been on multiple flotillas. And what he says here is that it's outrageous that in front of their families and the entire Basque press, our flotilla volunteers were attacked by the airport police in Bilbao, Basque Country, Spain, upon returning to their home country. Yeah, so let's watch this. This is unreal. So they're just beating down the protesters themselves that just got out. They just got home. They want to see their families. And then I saw that they arrested some of the family members also.
Estado sionista, Estado policial, Estado sionista, Estado policial, Estado sionista, Estado policial, su excelente sionista. ¡Sube! ¡Sube! ¡Excelente!
So this goes on. This is a 3-minute video.
¡Estado sionista! ¡Estado policial! ¡Gaslight! ¡Egoa! ¡Gaslight! ¡Egoa! ¡Zaietza kapututa ditula!
So the family are trying to get to their family members, and the cops are keeping them back.
¡Avanza!
They're like begging the cops, hey, let us fucking talk to our family.
¡Sube! ¡Fascista! ¡Zarete terrorista! ¡Sube! ¡Fascista! ¡Zarete terrorista! ¡Sube! ¡Fascista! ¡Zarete terrorista! ¡Sube! ¡Fascista! ¡Zarete terrorista! ¡Tontus! ¡Tontus! ¡Sube! ¡Fascista! ¡Zarete terrorista! ¡Sube! ¡Fascista! ¡Zarete terrorista! ¡Sube! ¡Fascista! ¡Zarete terrorista! ¡Sube! ¡Fascista! ¡Zarete terrorista! ¡Estado sionista! ¡Estado policial!
Damn. And again, why is this all being done? Well, we're about to find out because somebody pointed out Ahmed Shihab Eldin. Want to know why Basque police beat the Flotilla torture survivors? Because these are the same cops who've taken 1.6 million euros in Israeli security contracts, trained by former Mossad agents and equipped with Israeli surveillance tech. Go figure. Okay, so this again is the same scene, 2 minutes and 40 seconds from a different perspective. I'm not going to play this one. This shows them actually taking down the activists and beating them with nightsticks, which we did not see in the other video. Which is why they're freaking out. Like, why are they beating these guys? They just got beaten in prison, in an Israeli prison. Look at this shit. It's the same screaming. The one's covering the other to try to protect him. Ah, man, fuck Israel. So that's from ahmedeldin.substack.com. You can learn more about his perspective of that. But it gets worse, because what happened when the U.S. flotilla activists, not just the Americans, but the United States decided that they wanted to throw sanctions upon some of the activists on the boat. Who do you think is going to ask them to do that? Think it was the UK? I'm guessing it was not another country other than Israel. So U.S. imposes sanctions on aid flotilla activists, some based in Europe. And look, it's also the U.S. It's not just Israel. I'm not going to sit here and say that Israel, that, you know, the U.S. is absolved at all whatsoever. It's a team effort for sure. So what's going on here? This is Middle East Monitor. All right. The United States on Tuesday placed several individuals linked to the global Samud flotilla on its sanctions blacklist. That's really bad. That means you can't bank. That means you can't travel. There's a lot of things that happen when you're sanctioned. The flotilla aims to break the blockade on Gaza and deliver humanitarian aid to Palestinians, with some of the targeted individuals based in Europe. In a statement, the State Department said, quote, today's designations target 3 categories of Hamas enablers. Organizers of a Hamas-backed flotilla attempting to reach Gaza, with no evidence that it's actually organized by anybody connected to Hamas. They're trying to get aid, diapers, and food to starving people that are blockaded. All right. Operatives within Hamas-aligned Muslim Brotherhood networks that facilitate violent terrorist attacks. You mean like what Israel is doing every single day in Gaza, orchestrating violent and facilitating violent terrorist attacks on people who aren't attacking them and are living in fucking tents. And coordinators of the Samidun, a front organization for the PLFP, which is, again, all nonsense. Word salad to be able to justify continuing to murder innocent children, to maim innocent children. Among those sanctioned were activists living in European countries, including Spain and Belgium. Sanctions list included Mohammed Al-Khatib, the European coordinator for the Samidun network, who lives in Belgium. Belgian authorities had announced 2 years ago that they had intended to revoke his refugee status. Samidun is a global solidarity network focused on the situation of Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli jails. And a lot of times, they're not even prisoners. They're kidnapped victims held captive without charge, without ever being arrested. They just got scooped off the street, thrown in a hole and forgotten. So who do they get? Sanctions also targeted Saif Abu Keshek. That's the other activist that was tortured alongside Tiago Avila. All right, he was recently detained by Israeli forces off the Greek coast and imprisoned before being deported to Barcelona. Also, allegedly beaten and tortured, according to him and everyone that was around him and saw him and spoke to him. As we know, several ships have attempted to break the blockade imposed on Gaza, which has been devastated by the Israeli massacre that began after October 7th and has left the territory facing severe shortages of essential supplies. That's the biggest understatement I'm going to read all night. All right, that's Middle East Monitor. And then finally, I figured let's hear from someone that actually was on one of the boats and was in one of these prisons and tortured by Netanyahu's goons and Ben Gvir personally. So this is, what's her name? I want to get it right. I have it here. This is Violet Coco, an Australian activist. Shout out to Mint Press for cleaning up the audio here. This is actually a 4-minute video. I actually had a longer version of this video, but they summed it up nicely. Let's refresh and blow it up big so you can hear what she has to say.
Beat, tortured and sexually assaulted me and my fellow humanitarian peace activists for days. What got me home, what got me through, is thinking about coming home. And now I'm home. I can't stop thinking about my brothers and sisters that we left behind.
I was the third person to be processed on the prison ship and in the last van that was emptied onto an airplane. I have a fractured rib and bruises and cuts all over my body. The heartbreak that I'm feeling at being home now and knowing that our Palestinian brothers and sisters, 10,000 of them almost, are still in those conditions with those people who mistreated us so badly.
I was dragged into a darkened container ship on a prison boat. I was sexually assaulted. I was beaten, and that was just the beginning of 4 days of absolute hell.
How can we live in a safe world when our government continues to call this state a friend and ally? As long as this country calls Israel a friend, how can any of us be proud to be Australians?
Israel, beat.
All right. So, yeah, this woman actually, I had a longer version of her stuff. Hang on, let me see if I have that here. Because she did go a little bit deeper into what happened to her there. I don't know if I saved a link to that. No, I didn't save that. Damn. Okay. I'll have to link that. I'll link that afterwards in the description so you can hear her full story. So fuck Israel for all of that and for beating the Flotilla activists, but then for the U.S. for continuing to pile on sanctions, for the Basque police, for again ACAB, it's all a brotherhood. They worldwide, they all seem to be in on it. It's wow. I no words really. These are the people that are carrying diapers and baby food to try to feed starving people that Israel has been intentionally trying to starve out so that they will voluntarily leave. And bombing them in case they haven't gotten the message yet that they want them gone. And then they squeeze the entire territory. Word is they're building a physical barrier. We're going to get to all of that. And empathy requires love of self, Sean. Until then, nope. The word humanity is flawed. It implies that all humans have care, empathy, and morals. We don't. Israel is proof of that. And again, it's not just Israel. They're using the template of the United States and the way we treated the Native Americans. Good question. How many times does this happen in U.S. jails? Too often. But we do have allegedly due process until this past year, especially now in these detention facilities where there is literally like no rule of law. There's no due process whatsoever. There are no eyes and no accountability. And whatever the guards that are there want to happen seems to go on. Which is why all these judges are trying to stop it. So many activists that are trying to stop it. Miss Rachel is literally trying to get the Dilley detention facility shut down, the one for families, because their track record is dismal. And she's spoken with the kids that have stayed there and been separated from them. There's supposed to be a maximum of 60 days. We stretched kids way beyond the 60 days and kept them separated from their families. And it's targeted. It's targeted to specific groups of people, which makes it even more disgusting. Jim Crow laws and eugenics specifically, yes. Just like the Germans did in World War II. They used us as a template, for sure. Okay. All right. So, all right. Well, we're certainly not going to be monetized by YouTube for any of that, for showing any of that stuff. And YouTube doesn't like people showing it. So we're going to keep doing it, but we need your help to keep doing it. Support independent media because we need it more than ever. Ways to do that are on your phone, Cash App, the app, $ Indie News Network is the way to support us. Ko-fi.com/Indie News Network will actually pop something up on screen while I'm reading. at paypal.me/IndieNewsNetwork. You can do that as friends and family. There's no fees. Over on patreon.com/IndieNewsNetwork or at IndieMediaToday.com or INNNewsletter.com. You can subscribe on a monthly basis. At the Substacks, you can do it annually as well. There's, I think mine's $40 a year, maybe $50 a year. And then IndieNewsNow.com. That's the website that we created to aggregate news. It's got a link to our merch store, and there's a way to leave a tip there at the Keep the News Free section. Okay, so we have got a really, really, really long, because it's most of the rest of the show, Fuck Israel segment. So buckle up, because there's going to be, this is heavy stuff. Again, we'll start with a somewhat good news story. I'm going to share this video from Omar Shakir and Dawn. Let's go here. Okay, in December, Dawn is founded by Jamal Khashoggi originally to reform U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East and hold accusers accountable. Okay, published the identities of the 50 executives and board members who run AIPAC, which AIPAC, by the way, hides. But AIPAC isn't just 50 people, and so this time we went deeper, thousands of people deeper, to understand how AIPAC operates, and they created a website, AIPACwhoweare.org. So let's find out exactly whoweare.org. Hang on, let's again blow this up, start it over. They're mapping out the organization's massive footprint and network of influence. Mapping out professional connections of over 3,000 current, former AIPAC staffers. Their own LinkedIn profiles, their own professional disclosures. Here's what we found. AIPAC says it's an American organization. It says it takes no money from foreign countries, but its own staff is from the Israeli government. All over Israel. Military intelligence. Professional connections to every major pro-Israel advocacy group. Major institutions. News organizations. Think tanks. Media outlets. A network of networks. And it's deeply connected to U.S. governmental bodies and political party apparatuses, but it's not just connections. It's a revolving door. Dozens of current and former AIPAC staff have personally worked inside the U.S. government and inside the Israeli government. AIPAC's executive vice president for policy and government affairs was a deputy assistant secretary at the State Department. A former AIPAC staffer currently advises the Israeli prime minister. Another works in the White House. AIPAC shapes middle policy in the Middle East, and you should know how it works. Okay? So, this organization, like I said, did this phenomenal job of mapping this out, and they lay this out more clearly here with graphs and pictures. AIPAC shaped U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East, but how does AIPAC wield such influence? Well, Dawn analyzed available data and mapped connections between AIPAC, the Israeli and U.S. governments, and the broader pro-Israel ecosystem. The project is based on more than, like I said, 3,000 LinkedIn connections and publicly available records. Here's what we found. So the graphic they were showing is this one. Okay, and again, I'll link to all this in the show notes afterwards. All right, and what you see is the ADL, the American Jewish Council, the Jewish National Fund USA, B'nai B'rith Youth Organization, and where they're all connected and how they're all connected, from AIPAC to the Israeli government, through right-wing pro-Israel media, U.S. government and Congress, the think tanks, political parties, bodies, and then all the different organizations overseas in Israel that are influencing this and that orchestrate a lot of what happens over here. Pretty rough. Okay. Dawn's new research project maps what it calls an AIPAC network of networks. The project visualizes institutional and professional ties between AIPAC, Israeli, and U.S. governmental bodies, and an ecosystem of pro-Israel advocacy organizations, think tanks, media outlets, and policy institutions. The graphic shows how extensive these connections are. 55 members of the Republican Party, all right? The Republican Jewish Council, I think that is. The Republican National Committee, the GOP state parties. So all these people have current and former AIPAC staffers with LinkedIn connections to some of these organizations. Dawn's analysis also shows that 66 former AIPAC staffers who currently work in the U.S. government, from Congress to the White House to various branches of the military. Nearly 24 AIPAC staffers previously worked in U.S. government bodies. So again, 50 in the House of Representatives alone, 5 staffing congressional offices, 4 at the State Department, 4 at the Commerce Department. So people everywhere. The personal and professional relationships that result from this type of revolving door form the backbone of political influence in Washington, which is indicated in the hundreds of professional connections between AIPAC staffers and U.S. and federal state employees. Now, this is all of the Israeli government connections and how they link. There's the Consulate General of Israel in New York. You've got 3 AIPAC staffers there. You've got another 28 in the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and 4 in the office of the Israeli Prime Minister alone. The data that Dawn analyzed reveals many connections to Israeli government institutions. 7 former AIPAC staffers currently work for Israeli government institutions, and 6 current AIPAC staffers previously worked for Israel, according to the analysis. That's that revolving door they're talking about. This is on top of 153 LinkedIn connections, which show ongoing relationships between individuals working for AIPAC and the Israeli government, respectively. Huh. What a coinky-dink. AEI, FDD, 45 people, current and former, at, I don't know which one that is, FDD. I'm sure the first one would give me the legend and tell me. Who's FDD? Where's FDD? It's down here somewhere. So these are the think tanks. And again, how they are interwoven in the American Jewish Committee and Hillel and the ADL. And they've got people that work in both organizations or have worked for both organizations that have connections. And that's what this is all about. AIPAC shapes U.S. policy in the Middle East, but also operates entirely in the shadows. The public deserves greater transparency about how one of Washington's most powerful lobbying organizations operates, especially given its tax-exempt status and extensive sphere of influence, as they've just shown. So again, 20 former AIPAC staffers at the Jerusalem Post, 7 at I-24 News. Okay, you've got 1 at Sinclair and 1 at PragerU. I think that's Alexis, maybe. It's AIPAC floods American elections with millions of dollars. More and more candidates are challenging its long-standing stranglehold on U.S. elections and policy, said Raed Jarar, advocacy director at Dawn. It's critical that Americans continue to press for answers on who actually runs AIPAC and who AIPAC actually runs. In December of this past year, they launched the Faces of AIPAC. They said, like it said in the video, the project exposing 50 AIPAC board members and executive staff, people AIPAC has not publicly identified. But AIPAC is more than 50 people. This project sheds the light on how it actually works. So, if I go back here and I go back to this page, this tab, this is the website that tracks all of these connections. And you can click on any one of them and get a full bio and the accountability for exactly why they're on this list. I can't think of a better kind of organization to support. This is, again, dawnmena, DAWNMENA.org/AIPAC. I will drop that in the chat now for those who want to check that out. But I got a lot more. This is just the tip of the iceberg tonight. Next. You know, they've been saying, the Zionists say forever that Palestine was never an official place. Well, we've seen coins and money from Palestine. We've seen manhole covers from Palestine. How about a birth certificate? Okay. The next time they say there was never a place called Palestine, part 2. Peter Nightingale kindly shared this remarkable document, and I used Adobe and ChatGPT to restore it to its full glory and magnificence. So this is AI enhanced. Even ChatGPT was impressed, saying, quote, the document itself is extraordinary. British mandate Palestine trilingual naturalization paperwork with intact signatures, stamps, multilingual typography, and period portrait photography. Really remarkable artifact. Is it real? I would assume that Einat Temkin is not telling a lie. Former research assistant at USC Annenberg for School of Journalism, Communication. I don't know. I saw this, I'm like, wow, that's pretty impressive. 1925. Before Israel was created, whatever you want to call it, was yeah, I mean created, that's the only word to describe it. Before Palestine was stolen from the Palestinian people that were living there, and the Nakba, and they were exterminated, and the land was slowly overtaken by the Zionists. Now, on top of it, sometimes one old document is enough to shake an entire narrative. Here again is a 1932 passport issued by the U.S. consulate in Jerusalem bearing the name Palestine. I thought it wasn't a place. Before Israel, before every attempt at erasure, history does not always need shouting. Sometimes one stamp is enough. How is this colorized? I have no idea.
Look at that. How beautiful, mashallah. May God rest her soul. So look, Virginia right there. July 5th, 1932. This passport was issued at the American Consulate General, Jerusalem, Palestine. The capital, Jerusalem. The country name is Palestine. See that? Yes, sir. Y'all can argue with your mama, but if it was always Palestine, it will always be Palestine. Hey, looking at it.
So, for anyone that has questions, about whether it was actually a place named Palestine. And there were actually people that lived in a place named Palestine. Don't gaslight and say it didn't, that they didn't, and that didn't exist. It did. And it still does. And they've been stealing and sitting on that land. And at some point, it will hopefully end up back with the people that they stole it from. Israel should not exist as a country, especially after what they're doing right now. Like this one. And this is not, again, this is because of Israel, but this is happening in the UK. This is insane. Now, Village Crazy Lady Mel, I don't always agree with a lot of what she says. This one, she happens to be spot on. And when it comes to defending the Palestinian people against the Zionists, she's spot on. If you're a Jewish doctor in the UK, not only are you allowed to volunteer for the IDF, you're allowed to relish in your murder of Palestinian babies with zero consequences. But if you're a Palestinian doctor who points out the Jewish supremacy controlling the UK, you'll have your license pulled faster than you can blink. And she's talking about Dr. Rahme Adwan, who we've talked about before. She's had her license suspended 4 times already, and she's fought to have it reinstated. All right. This happened in January. When asked how many babies have you sniped, this clown, this murderer, replied, not enough. Not enough, but I'm sure they can add 2 more. And what's worse is the picture of the children that he was commenting on. Wow, it's just horrific. So, Zionist general practitioner who called for Palestinian babies to be shot retains his medical license. Now, what they've done is they pulled him off the hospital that he was at, and they've allowed him to practice privately still. But he still has a license to practice medicine in the UK right now. Dr. Eastland Stavely. What a monster. Now, from Dr. Finley's private practice, whatever that is. Okay, but now he's allowed to practice privately and still allowed to advise people on health somehow. Wow. So that's in the UK. Now we get into what's happening in Lebanon. This is actually what the U.S. It's U.S. bombs and U.S. backing using UK bases and U.S. weaponry and Israeli soldiers that are carrying these out. In most cases, we don't even know if American soldiers are too, but definitely Israeli soldiers. So I'm going to go to Jason Ditz over at antiwar.com. Antiwar is an Indie Media Award honoree, one of the top independent outlets out there. Go to indiemediaawards.substack.com, see a whole list that we published starting in 2022, 23, and 24. There's like 100 different outlets and journalists and live streamers. But anyway, Israeli soldiers detail their own ongoing looting in southern Lebanon. These war criminals can't help but document their war crimes. They're so proud of themselves and they're bragging about it because there so far has been no repercussions. Commanders see little point to keeping Israeli troops inside Lebanon, but they're doing it anyway because of the Greater Israel Project. And they're destroying entire towns, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. With the ceasefire, quote unquote, in Lebanon, that Israel continues to violate, having been extended another 45 days last week, Israeli commanders are finding themselves increasingly unclear about why exactly they're still in Lebanon, whether the ceasefire is meant to be complied with or designed to fail, and indeed what purpose the further presence is meant to serve. It's meant to serve as justification so they can exterminate everybody and steal the land. I'm going to give you the long and the short of it. The commanders see Israel as in something of a tangle where the U.S. is opposing them advancing any further, but their policy is to remain in southern Lebanon, destroying villages and clashing with Hezbollah fighters. This is a lot like what we did in Vietnam. Just trashing the place, murdering the civilians. This adds to the controversy surrounding an ongoing series of reports from Haaretz, in which Israeli soldiers report that the primary thing they're actually doing inside Lebanon is looting and destroying Lebanese villages. Why are they doing that? Because they want to level the ground and build whatever they want to build on top of it. And in order to do that, you need level ground. The soldiers said that they viewed the looting as unofficial, but the primary mission of the ongoing occupation of southern Lebanon. Okay, Haaretz has repeatedly reported on the ongoing problem of troops bringing loot back across the border, saying Israeli military leadership is not holding looters to account, what a surprise, and citing troops who say they assumed it was acceptable behavior. Because they've never been punished for it before, why would they assume that they would be now? One reservist described the systematic taking of goods out of Lebanese villages and bringing them back to the Israeli outpost, so they'd be waiting for the soldiers when they went home. Haaretz ran a similar report last month describing the widespread looting of Lebanese territory. So not only are they murderers, not only are they rapists, they're also thieves. Since Israel invaded southern Lebanon in early March, the Lebanese Health Ministry has reported some 3,089 people who've been killed in the war. I mean, it's not really a war, but a massacre, and another 9,400 wounded. This includes hundreds of both women and children, probably thousands. Okay, but that Jason's reporting hundreds. But I'm not done with Lebanon because they're just taking Lebanon and nobody's paying attention. But few are. Hala Jaber, of course, is. All right. Israel killed 9 paramedics in roughly 72 hours. Let that sink in. These are some of their faces. According to Lebanon's latest health sector figures, now updated after the killing of additional paramedics in the last 48 hours, this is the same blueprint that we saw in Gaza. They're going after the healthcare workers. They're going after the infrastructure. They're going after the civilization and the mechanism that runs civilization. 125 healthcare workers killed and another 273 wounded that can't now serve and patch up the sick and injured. 149 attacks on the healthcare sector. 142 ambulances targeted. Every one being a war crime. 32 medical centers destroyed. And that's just in Lebanon. In 48 hours. Oh, that's updated after 48 hours. 16 hospitals forced out of service. 221 ambulance crews attacked. Imagine we were reporting that Russia did that in Ukraine. Imagine what the corporate press, the outrage that happened to anywhere else in the world, but in a country that Israel has decided they want to destroy. Lebanon's emergency sector is not collapsing accidentally. It is being systematically dismantled. That sounds just like Gaza. Israel is committing war crimes against Lebanon's medical services, like they did in Gaza, because they are war criminals. Disgraceful. Ambulance drivers, hospital workers, paramedics. Why? Because God forbid they would actually make some sick people healthy. Israel can't have that, so they got to kill them. Fuck Israel. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing this right. I looked it up. AI, of course, doesn't necessarily know. I just called it Tyre. This is Tyre in South Lebanon today. Israel is leveling entire civilian neighborhoods in one of the most intense bombardments yet. One of humanity's oldest cities is being systematically wiped out. And, of course, not a peep from the complicit international community. Look at this.
الله يكسر ايديك ان شاء الله.
الله وكيل يضرب الثاني ما حدا يطلع يضرب الثاني يضرب الثاني يضرب الثاني.
They claim it's they claim they're these are the terrorists that are blowing up buildings indiscriminately in the oldest city, one of the oldest cities in the world. There are not terrorists in those buildings. The terrorists are sitting in Tel Aviv. Worse, here's another video, and this comes from Real the Force, replying to former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. Not a fan of hers whatsoever. What possibly is left to bomb children and people in tents? They're giving her really low-hanging fruit to make it easy for her to sound like she gives a shit. Check this out. This is another one of these horrific videos. There's no green left. There's few buildings left. That was Rafa a year ago. Now it's even worse. That was last September. Now it's even worse. This only charts basically September, October, December 2023. From June to December. Wow. January to September 2024. October to 2023 to April 2020. Look at all that green right here. Right here. All those green fields destroyed. You see all the bulldozer tracks. They tore those up. They dug them up. They burned them. And that wasn't the Palestinians burning their own fields. All right, again, this is from October of 2023 through May of 2025. You see no structures left standing where there were, and I'm guaranteeing you that all that green is going to be gone too. Yep. All that green in just 8 months. Two years. And now again, you're talking about 9 months later than that. Oof. March to July, just a 5-month period, right? 4-month period. Completely unrecognizable. Again, all that green here and here and here. Why? So they could steal the oil. I'm not going to read this one. I'm going to link this one, but this is a depressing as hell story from the Electronic Intifada, another Indie Media Award honoree. Okay, Malak Hijazi, endless displacement, endless Nakba. Obviously, this is going to be a horrifying story. Reef and Colin did an extensive coverage about Nakba Day last week on INN News, so go check that out. This is an interview with an 84-year-old woman who's older than the state of Israel themselves. So I'm going to encourage everyone to read that one. That one's just really, really tough to take. Okay. I read one from Middle East Monitor earlier. Here's another article they brought. Government Media Office warns of a sharp decline in aid entering Gaza. Go figure. When you've got a line of trucks waiting in Israel blockading them, okay, this was just in February, they still had a substantial line of trucks with aid ready to enter, but there's a limit on how many trucks can come in a day, and then beyond that, Israel harasses all the trucks that do try to come in. The government media office in Gaza warned it on Tuesday of what it described as a dangerous decline in humanitarian aid entering the Strip due to the siege and restrictions imposed by Israel. They know that well, very well. We don't, but Israel knows that well because they're the ones that are imposing it. Office Director Ismail al-Twabada said that since the ceasefire agreement came into force, bullshit ceasefire nonsense, okay, that only 48,636 total aid trucks had entered Gaza out of the total of 131,400. That represents what he described as a compliance rate of 37%. According to al-Fawada, more than 63% of Gaza's basic humanitarian needs have therefore not been met. And Israel would say, right, that's our plan. It's horrible. He added that between the beginning of May and the 18th of May this year, only 2,719 trucks entered the territory out of 10,800 scheduled. Again, represented a compliance rate of 25%. So it's not getting better, it's getting worse. Al-Fawada accused Israel of deliberately using food, medicine, and humanitarian aid as tools of political pressure, describing the restrictions as violations of international humanitarian law with severe consequences for civilians, as Israel has been intending the entire time, sadly. He called on the international community, mediators and guarantors of the ceasefire agreement, allegedly, to pressure Israel to fully implement all provisions of the deal, including opening crossings regularly and ensuring the unrestricted flow of humanitarian aid. How are they going to do that? What are they going to do now that's going to stop Israel after all of this time? They've already got all the money they need. They've already got all the weaponry that they need. So they already have the forces that they need. The statement also referred to the ceasefire framework, again, nonsense, announced by Donald Trump on 29 September of 2025, which included provisions for a ceasefire, partial Israeli withdrawal, prisoner exchanges, and the entry of 600 aid trucks a day. We ain't seeing 600 aid trucks a day, not when you've seen 2,400 between the 1st and the 18th. The office stated that while Hamas had fulfilled its obligations during the first phase by returning all the hostages, Israel had continued military operations and expanded its presence in Gaza and moved the goalposts like they usually do. Now they want to complete disarmament. According to the statement, the second phase of the agreement was intended to include a broader Israeli withdrawal and reconstruction efforts in exchange for the disarmament of Palestinian factions, an issue that remains disputed between the parties. That's a nice way of saying it. Middle East Monitor tells you the facts, but does a little whitewashing while they're doing it. They try to sugarcoat it. Now, this woman does not sugarcoat, and I've become even more and more of a fan of hers, Sana Saeed. I also became a paid subscriber of hers, sanasaeed.substack.com. Spelled exactly like her name. Go follow her. For sure. The biggest gaslight of the past year has been pretending there are ceasefires in Gaza or Lebanon, while Israeli slaughter and displacement of entire populations continue, as I just showed you. All right. So what am I talking about here? This is a New York Times headline pointing out that Israeli strikes are pummeling Lebanon, killing medics amid fragile truce. How can it be a truce if they're pummeling Lebanon? What? Damaged a main hospital entire as funerals for paramedics killed a day earlier were held, and they were double tapping the paramedics, meaning they were killing people with a bomb, waiting for the paramedics to come to help them, and then dropping another bomb on the paramedics. Another war crime, by the way. Worse, we've got this. In Gaza, since the start of the ceasefire, quote unquote, on October 11th, this is what Israel's done. Killed 904 Palestinians and injured another 2,713. Yesterday, they bombed Al-Nusrat refugee camp in Gaza. With one strike, 5 homes completely destroyed. This is a photo of the area. Fuck Israel. People in tents. Barely surviving. Where no aid trucks are getting in, not nearly enough. No medical supplies are making it in. They destroyed all the hospitals. They destroyed all the roads. They celebrated one new cafe and one library that got rebuilt partially. And now they have to bomb the refugee camps. But worse, they started digging up. They found a mass grave behind the Al-Shifa hospital, where we remember that the IDF had actually made the patients line up and had held them all kind of in handcuffs or zip-tied and blindfolded. They found these mass graves. They found children and babies with their hands bound with zip ties behind their back. This photo is from 2 mass graves discovered at Nasser Hospital, southern Gaza, in April. That was May 23rd. During the genocide, the Euromed Human Rights Watch documented over 130 mass graves of the victims of Israeli genocide. And these are literally the size of children's wrist, zip ties, but babies, child's wrist. Fuck Israel. Again, babies bound behind their back, murdered, buried. And then we've got Mondo Weiss, another Indie Media Award honoree. Okay, there, Israel moves to annex Palestinian historical sites in the West Bank. Again, this is another pretty long article. We've talked about some of the historical sites and these ancient, ancient site, World Heritage sites that either they've destroyed or started to take over. The Israeli Knesset is considering a bill that would place Palestinian historical sites in the West Bank under direct Israeli civil law, stripping them of their protected status under international law. Experts say it's annexation in all but name. So here's what's going on. Again, the bill is known as the Antiquities Law. It was originally introduced in 2023. Its final draft was approved by the Israeli cabinet in February as part of a broader set of annexation measures. Again, we talked about this when we talked about one of the other cities that they were looking to annex and appropriate and take over. Introduced by Likud Knesset member Amit Halevi, it passed its first Knesset reading on Wednesday by by 2314. It's now due to go up for its second and third readings in the Israeli parliamentary body before being passed into law. If it does, the bill would transfer authority over the West Bank antiquities from the Israeli Army's Antiquities Officer to a new agency under the direct authority under the Ministry of Heritage. The Palestinians get no say over any of this. This would move the control of the occupied Palestinian antiquities from the Army's civil administration to a civilian agency in the Israeli government, a clear act of legal annexation in contravention of international law. So I'm going to stop there. I'll let you guys finish that one. It's gross. And fuck Israel for that. I got more. But this one's actually somewhat good news. I mean, documenting a genocide, if you can call documenting a genocide good news, this is an interactive map at a website called genocide.live for as long as it stays up. Okay? Minor new feature on the genocide.live map created by Zionism Observer. Geolocated videos can now be played without leaving the map. So what happens is when you click on the website and you click on one of these, it pops up a box where you can watch the video of what happened exactly there, documented, dated, and with receipts. Wow. Buildings, murders, everything. Okay, events from October 19, 2023 through May 5th of this year. Uploads from January 1st through May 13th. Today they announced that not only do they have video, they also now are linking this to photographs. So if they have photographs of people that were murdered and that the IDF committed war crimes against, they'll be listed here. So let's watch this video real quick from receipts_LOL. So check this out. Clicking on that opens up a thing. Ambulance directly shot on the way to a rescue mission. There's the date. There's the coordinates. Click to zoom on the location. Impressive as hell what these people are doing. Appreciate that greatly. If you find our archives valuable, please consider supporting their fundraiser to improve the backup infrastructure. They have a chuffed fundraiser where they're looking to raise $60,000. I'm so sad that this project of horror and atrocities has been necessary, but it's a brilliant initiative. Safe storage of evidence is paramount. Justice must come to the Palestinians. That's Michelle. She's a well-known Assange supporter, friend of the network. So we've got the mapping, and then finally we've got just a reminder from Ayuba Ahmed. On October 7th, Israel killed its own people and covered it up to justify genocide. No sugarcoating here. We tell it like it is. That's what happened. But yeah, I'm really happy about that interactive map. I think that's really important. And so for all of that, we say, fuck Israel. All right. That took less time than I thought it would. That's not bad. I do have quite a bit of stuff to still get through here. But, man, they are just tearing through the entire world and without any repercussions whatsoever. And it's mind-bending and so frustrating for people that actually have a heart and see what they're doing. I mean, kudos to everybody that's fighting to do something to stop this. The database project does seem amazing. Yeah, no, that's right, Billy. All right. Yeah, so support independent media. I did not bring any corporate media from there because corporate media doesn't want to talk about any of this stuff. We need independent media more than ever. We need people who know how to crawl independent media and collate this stuff and find the stuff and build websites like IndieNewsNow.com. The ways to do that here are Cash App, $ Indie News Network, at ko-fi.com/Indie News Network. Over at paypal.me/Indie News Network. I saw Sean did that. Thank you so much. Over at patreon.com/Indie News Network. You can subscribe monthly. We're over on Substack. We're live right there now at IndieMediaToday.com. Hello to everybody watching over there. And then also I publish over at INN Newsletter. That's part of the network that we are members of, that I'm a founding member of. And there are also others, 5 other shows and podcasts that are hosted at INN Newsletter. So there's a great reason to subscribe there too. And everybody on that board already has supported financially, and really appreciate everyone doing that. I want to wish a happy birthday, by the way, to Descent in Bloom, who had a birthday this week. She's in chat, and I guess I don't have one of her articles today, but I did share her entire list of articles relating to Jack Cobb and the election voting machines, and how they are compromised in many ways, and how that there is effectively one person or 2 labs that are responsible for certifying all of the voting machines in the country, and one of them has had his license revoked in the past for rubber stamping what the voting machine company sent him as a machine, and then provided him the testing software to test their software with. It's insane the way that this works. And I don't know if Robbie had quite seen any of that, because he's had his head down for a couple of years. I wanted him to see all that amazing work that Descent had done and understand just what we're up against when it comes to elections. Because I see he's doing a lot to chase dark money. And I think chasing dark money and exposing where the dark money is coming from is important, and to know who's funding all these organizations and that they're trying to hide it. But at the end of the day, if we can't get clean, fair, and free elections, the whole game was lost before they ever spent the first dollar. So let's understand that, clean that up before we do anything else first. I mean, stop the money flow for sure, but clean up how the machines are certified and make sure that we're actually getting clean machines. Because right now, I don't know who really actually believes we have them on either side. Because you know that the Republicans claim after 2020 that Trump was cheated, and you know the Democrats are still crying after 2024. There's still people that have their hair on fire saying Kamala won. Unreal. We're going to talk about that in a second, but I have some really, really good news. Thank you to Descent in Bloom again. Happy birthday this week. A much needed win. The federal judge has just granted Kilmar Abrego Garcia's motion to dismiss for vindictive prosecution. All criminal charges against him were being dismissed. He gets to go home. We've talked about this guy for way too long, for over, I think, more than a year now. They smeared this guy. They made up stories about him. They embellished stories about a video where he was involved in an arrest and claimed that it was him, and so many lies told about this guy in order to do the mental gymnastics to backdate the justification for why they did what they did, which was never justified in the first place. And I'm very grateful that he's getting out. So shout out to everybody that stayed on making sure that Kilmar Abrego Garcia stays free and in the United States and is not deported or sent. Remember, he was sent to CCOT, this guy, for months. He lived in that Ecuador, in that it's El Salvador, right? That hellhole of a prison that we covered. My God. Then they brought him back to Baltimore. He was wow, what a mess. But thank goodness he's home. He's with his family now. And hopefully, if I know the Trump administration, they're not done with him yet, but I hope for his sake they are. All right. Next. This is really funny. You know, I can't stand talking about the duopoly. But once in a while, it is a little fun to have a little fun. So this week, the Democrats, and this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen, put out an autopsy report about what happened in 2024. This is even more laughable than Hillary Clinton's published book, What Happened, from 2016. What happened here is that I took a Substack post by RJ Eskow, who I guess is still on Team Democrat in some way, shape, or form, and still hoping they're going to be good, and hasn't figured out that the duopoly is never going to allow that to happen. The money is funding the Harlem Globetrotters versus the Washington Generals, with the Democrats playing the part of the lovable losers who always just fall short, but really make a concerted, hard effort try. But somehow they just always lose. So this is an autopsy written by the corpse. I love that title. The DNC report, silent on Gaza, war, and the social contract. Wait, so what was it about? Hilarious. So I'm going to blow this up. We'll read this real quick. This is pretty short. After an extended pressure campaign, DNC Chair Ken Martin finally agreed to release the DNC's autopsy report of the 2024 election. It's the first document I've ever read that would have been better if it had been written by AI. Martin himself said the report doesn't meet my standards, and it won't meet your standards. That's for damn sure, as we'll see. However, that doesn't let Martin off the hook. I downloaded the document before reviewing my news feed, where I quickly learned that many like-minded people began exactly as I did, by searching for the word Gaza. Result? Not found. Then I tried Palestine. Result? Not found. How about Israel? Not found. These omissions are particularly striking, since one activist group was told by report author Paul Rivera, literally the guy who wrote the report, that DNC data showed the administration's support for the Gaza genocide was, in their words, a, quote, net negative in the 2024 election. Axios, which reported on that exchange, added that it independently verified that Democratic officials conducting the autopsy believed the issue harmed the party's standing with some voters. Nothing to see here, folks. Roots Action was one of the groups pressing for the autopsy's release, and co-founder Jeff Cohen called the document almost worthless. Not completely, though, for whatever reason. Cohen condemned the failure to mention the Biden-Harris administration's Israel policy that abetted the Gaza massacre, Biden's initial decision to run for re-election, and what he called Kamala Harris's lack of principles. Other words that can't be found in this autopsy include war, military, defense, in the military sense, peace, Medicare, and Social Security. Again, I don't know what the report named is. 197 pages. The report fails to address either the U.S.'s runaway military spending or the ongoing attempts to undermine the country's social contract. The report's only conceivable value will be for future anthropologists who will find it provides considerable insight into the culture and folkways of the professional Democratic class. Its introduction reads like the kind of word salad a teenager might come up with when asked to write a 1,200-word essay on a topic they forgot to study. There's a lot of meandering, some restatements of the assignment, and a hastily looked up quotation. Don't read it unless you're prepared to wade through prose like this. Quote, the voters decide which choice is most resonant. One party declares itself the winner, and the other party declares that the fight is far from finished. I think Kamala Harris wrote this herself, or her staff did. The document is 192 pages long, but many of those pages are blank. The page called Leadership Message, blank. Any comment about that would be like shooting fish in a barrel. Executive summary, blank, and so on. I don't know what 192 pages fills. The section entitled Electoral Landscape includes sentences like this. We must organize everywhere to win anywhere. Which doesn't make any sense. You don't have to organize everywhere to win anywhere. And Democrats already win somewhere. Those somewheres are called blue states. The problem is they have to win more somewheres, and you can't win somewhere if you're everywhere. You have to be there to win there. The next sentence begins, winning anywhere means providing for a renewed focus on the voters of Middle America and the South. Wait. One sentence ago, we were everywhere. Now we're in Middle America and the South, which happen to be two readily identifiable somewheres. That's what consultant speak will do to the human mind. The document, perhaps unsurprisingly, praises the centrist democratic orientation of the late 1980s and 1990s. You mean the ones that were run by the CIA? But the same pro-corporate orientation contributed heavily to the party's 2024 losses. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. That's what you get when you call on a party to emulate the centrist, future-focused directive by adopting a 40-year-old strategy. This is great. Report also states that the DNC and ASDC, the Association of the State Democratic Parties, have conducted more than 1,200 interviews to assess the health of 57 state parties in every state, district, or territory. Where are those interviews and what are the results? You know they must be fucking dismal, because if they were decent, they'd put them out. Martin reportedly told DNC members that Rivera no longer he's no longer with or advises the DNC in any capacity. But the buck stops with the boss, not the consultant. I get it. Martin has a tough job. But when he campaigned for his position by promising an autopsy, Remember that the douchebag, who was it? I can't think of it. The guy from Justice Democrats, or from More Perfect Union. Yeah, that's him. He wanted to be the DNC chair. He volunteered to be DNC chair and ran for it and lost. He would have been the one having to disclose this crap. By failing to do so, he reneged on his campaign promise, which is what his donors told him to do. In the meantime, a little transparency would have gone a long way toward avoiding the mess he now faces. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. Okay, don't read the DNC document unless you're a masochist or a journalist, provided there's a difference between the two. Trust me, you'll win somewhere by being anywhere else. And I'm not going to say to read this one. Instead, I read that one, and that also was a joke. Any autopsy by the Democrats in general is a joke. But the electoral map is hilarious because they literally lost every single swing state. I mean, it was embarrassingly trounced and still have yet to reckon with that. Harris Lull. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so that's one lightning round thing. Now, on top of that, oh no, Ali Moore, she made this a paid subscriber post. Damn it. She wrote this good article. Billionaires have two parties. Working people need their own. And I thought it was actually a really good post. I guess you could go there and upgrade to be a paid subscriber. I think she'll offer 7 days free if you go as a trial. But go check this article out. I wish I had more access to that. Oh, a bummer. Okay, well, we're going to read Conspirator Norteño's one because this one's funny, but also infuriating. Because almost everybody seems to be getting fooled by this bot network that's happening on Facebook right now. So life in U.S. state, according to spammers from Bangladesh, in which a network of Facebook spam accounts posts curiously similar AI-generated memes for every U.S. state, with the possible exception of Delaware, because there's nothing redeemable about Delaware. Take a look at this. So these are a bunch of different Facebook pages with thousands of followers, by the way. Tens of thousands. This West Virginia Life, 35,000 followers. Indiana Life, 41,000 followers. Somebody I know shared a post from Indiana Life, and I'm like, I don't know if you know, but I shared this article with them. So shout out to Conspirator for uncovering this. I don't know how they do it, but they're pretty brilliant. In recent months, Facebook has been flooded with U.S. state-themed AI-generated image posts from a swarm of suspiciously similar accounts with names such as Life in Nevada, I Grew Up in Iowa, and Utah Life. The content posted by these accounts frequently features rural imagery and is extremely similar regardless of which state any given post is allegedly about. Many of the images posted are more or less interchangeable other than the state name. In an ironic twist, this network of U.S.-themed accounts doesn't appear to be run from within the U.S. at all. Facebook's page transparency feature indicates that some and possibly all of the accounts are actually operated from Bangladesh. And here are all the ones that show where there are countries of origin. Anyone that shows it, it's Bangladesh or they're hiding it. Most of these pages were also either created or renamed in 2026. These Facebook accounts are part of a spam network consisting of at least 49 U.S. state-themed Facebook pages, with every state other than Delaware represented. Many are new accounts, and many of the older accounts have been renamed relatively recently. The accounts generally have names in the form of Life in New Jersey, or Utah Life, or just Connecticut things. I Grew Up in Iowa. Life is Idaho are exceptions to the rule. And there are the receipts. Where are they pulling all of this from? When was it created? 23 of the 49 accounts have location information available via Facebook's page transparency feature. Every single one of those 23 accounts has one or more operators in Bangladesh. 2 of the accounts have operators in other countries as well. I saw Greece and I saw Saudi Arabia. Somewhere. I caught that in this while I was scrolling. Okay. Louisiana Life has at least one operator, again, allegedly located in Greece, while Massachusetts Life appears to have been partially run from Saudi Arabia. Some of the accounts have been renamed, and in a few cases, the prior names indicate that the prior content likely had a totally different theme, meaning that they were bought on the black market. Examples include Life in Ohio, which was originally named Rose Shop, and Life in Nevada, which was originally spent about a month with the name Hello India. So what they're doing is they're posting images like this. Alabama does not need to buy food from China. Alabama needs to back Alabama farmers. Insert state here. AI slop photos. The content posted by the accounts in this spam network consists largely of memes produced via AI image generation models and is extremely similar from account to account other than the state referenced. One of the most popular recurring types of content is images of farms with signs expressing opposition to importing food from China. My guess is that the reason for that is this has got to do with Palantir funding. Palantir and OpenAI funding the anti-China lobby. Example, Indiana doesn't need to buy any food from China. Indiana needs to back Indiana farmers. And here's another one. Again, this is against data centers. They're doing the same thing. It's not worth giving up an inch of this for a data center, which is weird because Palantir's looking to expand data centers. In an ironic twist, another recurring theme of the network's content is anti-AI data center memes produced with generative AI. These images generally feature aerial views of farms and beaches with messages such as, "It's not worth giving up an inch of this for a data center," emblazoned on the ground in an enormous font, sometimes accompanied by a drawing of the state the account is supposedly based in. In a few cases, the anti-data center message is on a sign instead. All right, here's railing against property taxes. But you see the difference, state names and images on the sign. Many spam accounts also post anti-property tax memes. These posts consist of an image of a house with a sign in front containing the text, "Property taxes make no sense on a home paid off. If we own it, we truly own it," or variations thereupon. Many of the images, again, also include the name or flag of the state theoretically associated with the account that posted the image. In the case of Colorado Life, this takes the form of a massive "Welcome to Colorado" sign in a random person's front yard. Is that here? No, that's before. That's this one. Next. Then we've got these earthquake things. Almost every account in this network has posted at least one post claiming that large numbers of earthquakes have just been reported in the account's alleged state of origin. In reality, seismic activity in the U.S. is not evenly distributed, and the majority of earthquakes in the country take place in either California or Alaska, rendering many of these posts vanishingly unlikely. Now, I will say that we know there's been a ton wherever there's fracking. Oklahoma, for example, has had a ton of earthquake activity. The earthquake posts all feature maps pinpointing the locations of the alleged earthquakes. Some of these maps, however, are rather inaccurate. For example, Traverse City is on the wrong side of Lake Michigan in the post in the upper left. Oops. Yeah. That's not good. All right. 22 quakes detected in 9 hours between 2.0 and 4.4 in Georgia. This is all AI slop. Oh, Ohio, look out, Descent. You're in trouble now. 17 quakes detected in the same 9-hour period that there were 22 in Georgia. Whoa. And look, that line looks eerily similar, doesn't it? Weird. Same magnitude, 2.0 to 4.1, 2.0 to 4.4. And look at this. These posts have hundreds of likes, hundreds of comments, and hundreds of shares. Some of them, at least. This one got no action in Kentucky. They were too busy out fake voting for Gallerin against Thomas Massey, I guess. Allegedly. Almost every account in this network has posted at least one post claiming that large numbers of earthquakes, like we said, that's this stuff. And finally, we've got incorrect maps are not the only glitchy aspect of this network's posts. On multiple occasions, the network operators appear to have forgotten which account they were logged into, resulting in a post about Indiana appearing on the Wisconsin Life page and a map of Maine showing up on the Utah Life page. Several posts also include evidence of the prompts used to generate the images and associated text, hopefully corroborating the content's artificial origin. Now, what I think is happening there is they're using a spreadsheet to update a mass amount of posts where they're linking an image to content and they're linking to the wrong image. Something got messed up in the order of images. While this spam network is in some ways similar to other Facebook generative AI content farms, such as those that endlessly post images of non-existent barn dominiums and fictional meals, it has an additional layer of political messaging that these other spam operations lack. Who's making money from this? The anti-Chinese import, anti-data center, and anti-tax themes are consistently present across the group of accounts and appear to be largely targeting a rural audience. It'll be interesting to see how this network's activity develops further over time, assuming that Facebook doesn't intervene and shut it down. I just think that the thing with the data centers is so funny because they're literally trolling these people with generative AI posts, which it would require a data center to produce, saying, I don't want a data center. Wait, what? And again, I've seen a bunch of people sharing these posts specifically. Wyoming is not for sale. No, the one that I actually saw shared, I saw this one. Indiana does not need to buy food from China. And I also saw the one above it at the top. One of these guys up here. I remember seeing West Virginia Life. Somebody shared a West Virginia Life post because it showed up in their feed because they targeted anyone who lives in that town, in that state. Easy. Really bad. Now, like I said, Robbie Receipts, Robbie Yeager from Politify is back and he published his first couple of articles. He messaged me that he's actually doing a massive mapping of one network of dark money funding, where the money comes from, where the money goes, who it's funneling through in between, and all the different organizations they're pushing it through. This was another one about California 32 that he published, again, over at Jaeger, JAEGER.substack.com. That's Politify. He published two articles, one about this big banks funding a pro-Brad Sherman PAC. All right, and the other one was in Louisiana. This lady, Letlow, she lost, right? Because dark money provided her with over $500,000, right? So she actually beat Bill Cassidy, I guess, who spent more than $500,000 boosting Letlow in the weeks leading up to the election night. According to newly filed FEC disclosures, the committee received $470,000 from a little-known political nonprofit called Common Sense Policy in Action, which appears to have emerged just 1 year ago. All right, they have 3 politically connected operatives, both lobbyists with Baton Rouge-based firm 1812 Group, alongside Bobby Sapiro of RMS Strategies. I don't know who any of these people are. All right, but what he's mapping is that these guys are longtime fixtures in Louisiana's lobbying world, representing a slate of powerful corporate interests before the state legislature. Their client roster has included oil and gas giants like ConocoPhillips and Occidental Petroleum, plastics manufacturers in the American Chemistry Council, and perhaps most significantly, Meta. On Meta's behalf, the pair have lobbied Louisiana lawmakers on issues involving AI infrastructure, tax incentives, energy policy, and data center development. All right, again, Meta's massive footprint expansion in that state as well. They're doing it in Virginia. They're doing it in Ohio. Meta is expanding these data centers all over the country. Really bad. So go subscribe to Robbie for free over at Jaeger.substack.com. This was the Louisiana race that he talked about, and he also talked about California 32. There will be more. His original articles, if you go all the way back into his archive, some of his first articles were about the Sunrise Movement and about how the Sunrise Movement was funded by Soros. Nobody knew that back in 2021. open society funding grassroots environmental organizations. So Robbie, I can't be more excited that he's back doing this. He also published extensive research. He lives in North Carolina and publicly and himself walked out and witnessed the leaking that was happening from Colonial Pipeline and reported on it. And it still is the largest gas spill in the United States history. It ended up becoming over 2 million gallons. So again, follow my brother Robbie. I will be sharing whatever he puts out there for sure. And he's continuing to chase dark money, which we all need people to do. Okay. And then, of course, I mentioned Indie News Now. That's the website that we built to support independent media. Okay, we've got anti-war news, and the dissident at the 307.substack.com just posted something a little while ago. Let me refresh it, and you'll see how far that already got pushed down 2 articles because Dave DeCamp published something, and the dissident put out another article. He's been churning them out. Anti-war. Rabina Qureshi, all right, Chris Hedges, Left Voice, Dissent in Bloom, Israel-Palestine News, James Roguski. I just added Middle East Monitor. I'm going to see how well that does and see if it floods the site or not. It seems to be meshing out in pretty well. Sludge, the consultants cashing in on pro-Israel campaign spending. Really important on this one. All right. Unicorn Riot, another Indie Media Award honoree. Tons of different Indie Media Award honorees. You can find all their content here. And this links right to their articles and videos. We're not trying to gatekeep and we're not trying to take their traffic away. I also wanted to mention the merch store. Okay, look at my shirt. So we've got the Shannon Master Funk Cancer collection. But beyond that, we have INN t-shirts. I'm actually wearing the Indie t-shirt. Yes, I'm wearing the name of the band. Somebody said earlier that we deserve better psyops. We made a t-shirt for that. You can check that out at the merch store. All right, there's American Tradition with Jesse Jett. We'll have a new episode Thursday night. Likely going to be Dealer's Choice. I'm waiting to find out from him which one he wants. But if you scroll down to the bottom of the t-shirt page, you've got the green tie Indie with the arms. That's the shirt that I'm wearing right now. We've also got our famous Cats or Dicks t-shirts. So if you haven't picked up one of those, we have them in white and black because, of course, that's Colin Radix Carter's phrase, Cats or Dicks. Okay, so that was our lightning round. I just have the GoFundMe's left, and then we can pop out of here for the night and keep it at 2 hours, which is nice. I know things have been running a little long lately. So, support independent media because we need it more than ever. The ways to do that are, first of all, going to that IndieNewsNow.com. There's a way to support to keep the news free. But beyond that, Cash App, $ Indie News Network will show up on my phone. We go right to our bank account, co-fi.com/Indie News Network. At paypal.me/Indie News Network. Do that as friends and family, and there's no fees. It says it's Tarif because we have that in Reef's name. Patreon.com/Indie News Network to subscribe monthly. And then, of course, over on Substack, you can subscribe over at IndieMediaToday.com for free or at INNNewsletter.com. Both are totally free. All the content is free, but we appreciate support of a monthly or an annual subscription at either one of those places. Yep, Natalie's putting up her sunflowers already in advance. She knows what's coming for Shanda. Before we get to Shanda, though, we're going to talk about, of course, everybody, the other 2 GoFundMes that we've been talking about for too long. It's now coming up on a year for both of them. First is Natalia. Natalia is sitting in a nice facility right now in Ohio. Has been there since last July. Working mother taken by ICE. Cowboy Kitty, our brother Anthony in the chat. This is his sister-in-law. And he's raised over $1,200, I believe, already for her. At what a blessing. We still have a bunch to go. So if anybody has a couple of bucks they can donate, you see INN up there. That was 6 months ago. Thank you, Natalie. You see, Natalie stepped up so much. Natalie's such a blessing. She's incredible. And Natalie, let me tell you, I love you, Natalie. I hope it's okay for me to say so, but they've raised healthcare rates so much in Washington State that she can't even afford to have a healthcare plan anymore. She's literally like flying blind without healthcare. And here she is taking care of everyone out there. You're incredible. I love you, Natalie. Thank you. You're really an unbelievable person. Natalia is sitting in an ICE detention facility and she's being tortured to a point. She's sitting there unable to communicate in her language with anyone because nobody there speaks it. She says she hasn't seen outside, not in the sun, for 9 months. That most of the people there either speak English or Spanish. That the meals have been crappy. The healthcare has been awful. And that, she'd very much like to get out of there, and we'd love to get her out of there. I love you. There's Cowboy Kitty. I'm glad to see you're here and listening, bro. Miss you, and free Natalia for sure. She needs to get out of there, and I don't know how in this country they're just allowed to do this, but under the Trump administration, they've taken all the rules away, and now it's just they decide what the rules are, and nobody's going to stop them, which is horrific. So, praying for Natalia and and always shouting out and keeping her story alive so everybody knows about what's happening there. Nobody forgets that she's still sitting in that prison right now, and that Descent in Bloom wrote an incredible article last summer documenting exactly what happened to her, what happens in these prisons, and why these prisons are incentivized to keep these people in these prisons. So thank you again, Anthony, for stepping up and for helping her. He's driving his truck right now. Anthony's a long-haul, over-the-road trucker. Love you, man. Next, we've got Justice for Aspen. Almost 11 months, by the way, Anthony's saying now, for Natalia. What a shame. Why? She's not helping anybody being there, although the state of Ohio, her county, is profiting from keeping her there in a privately owned facility that is being paid by the state and by ICE to operate. Again, read Dissent's article about that. It's infuriating and eye-opening. So again, I'm going to go back to Justice for Aspen. It literally has been a year since Halo Benson, Aspen's mom, reached out to me and said, oh my God, Aspen was arrested. And we didn't really know exactly what to do. She didn't really communicate much. She got in her car and she drove to Georgia, which is where Aspen was held in county lockup for 2 weeks, 15 days. And because she went to a music festival with a friend of a friend, they went to Florida from Tennessee, even though she lives in Oklahoma. She went to Tennessee to visit her friends. They said, we're all going to this music festival. At the last minute, her friends backed out, said, go with our friend. It's okay. He's cool. They went to Florida to this music festival. And on the way back, they got pulled over in Georgia, and the cop searched the vehicle and found mass quantities of drugs and charged both of them with trafficking. The driver knew that she didn't know about the drugs. She told the cop, of course, she didn't know about the drugs. So did the driver. They didn't believe her. And she spent 2 weeks plus in jail, and now she is facing decades in prison. So we need your help. We need everybody's help. This is all hands on deck. This is a 29-year-old autistic woman who, according to Halo, she's innocent and trusting and has a hard time processing things. And the 2 weeks plus in that prison were incredibly difficult on her. And I feel awful. I interviewed them one-on-one. I know Dissent also interviewed them and also wrote an article about the Georgia prison system and about what happened to Aspen. And all of that is available. You can find links to all of them on this link tree, linktr.ee/justice4Aspen. It's a heartbreaking story. It really is. totally, really an innocent girl who was caught up in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong people. And now she's losing her adulthood, potentially facing decades in prison. So they need to raise money for a GoFundMe to hire lawyers and experts and consultants in order to try to get her freed and to get the case dismissed, expunged somehow. She's out pending bail right now, and they raised their initial ask of $12,500, and I don't think that they've added to the ask yet. Okay. Again, on the 20th of May last year, she was arrested in Peach County, Georgia. Like I said, it's been a year. And again, heartbreaking that this happened to somebody so close to us. 12,600 of the 12,500 raised. She needs to raise that amount so that more people know that there's another milestone that needs to be reached. And I've asked Aspen to do that. I mean, asked Halo to do that for her. So if you can, again, just the linktr.ee/justice, the number 4 Aspen. Go here. There's a link to the GoFundMe. There's a link to the one-on-one interview. Okay. There's a link to the article that Dissent had written. There's a link to our Substack. We also did a live stream fundraiser where Jessie Jet played music and to raise money for her defense for a couple hours. We'll probably do that again soon. And by the way, we'll be live Thursday night for a brand new edition of Jessie Jet American Tradition on INN. And then finally, we'll talk about our friend Shanda Masta. We know that Shanda lost her battle with cancer. Originally, it was small cell lung cancer. It expanded and went into her liver and into her eye at one point, and at the end into her brain. She was in hospice care, and she gave up her fight in early April. And the donation are still up. The GoFundMe is still up. So if you are able to and of means, please, there are still final expenses. Oh God, Facebook made her last call to you disappear. Those sons of bitches. Fuck them. Yeah, survivor's guilt here. Well, no, don't have any survivor's guilt because I wouldn't want to have to do this for you too, brother. And we need you around. Now, this past Sunday would have been Shanda's 52nd birthday. And my brother Oz the Boomer, her co-host and best friend from Beauty and the Boomer, wrote this beautiful heartfelt post and put a video up on Twitter. I'm going to read. On Saturday, he wrote, "Tomorrow's my dear friend Shanda's birthday. In honor of her, I created this heartfelt tribute using the very first video I ever shared with her, the one that helped inspire her to begin doing her own show. Not long after she started, she asked me to join her for a show together, and she lovingly came up with the name Beauty and the Boomer. These moments, the laughter, the conversations, the music, and the connection we shared will forever remain among the most meaningful experiences of my life. I can honestly say that 2026 has been the hardest year I've ever endured. Losing Shanda has been devastating beyond words, as many of you already know. Then only weeks later, I lost my beloved companion, Dharma, after 13 beautiful years together, one of his dogs. She truly was one of the greatest dogs I've ever known, and one of the purest souls to ever grace my life. These losses have affected me deeply in ways I never imagined possible. Healing has been slow, and through this journey, I've gained a far greater understanding of the weight of grief and emotional trauma that it can have on and place on the human spirit. Even so, he wants everyone to know that he believes recovery is beginning to appear somewhere on the horizon, which is great, like the first light of sunrise after a long dark night. Shanda encouraged him to continue doing what they did so well together. In many ways, he feels like she gave him permission to carry their spirit forward with honesty, thoughtfulness, humor, music, passion, and love. And he hopes to honor her memory in the days ahead and continue finding his way back from the edge one step at a time. Oz's hope is to keep bringing all of you a laugh when it's needed, a tear when it's deserved, a little hope when times feel uncertain, and the kind of heartfelt connection we all long for in these difficult and challenging times. I hope you enjoy this small but sincere remembrance of our dear friend on her birthday. She's missed beyond measure and loved more than words can say. And this is available up on YouTube as well. And here, let me... I don't care if I get hit with the copyright.
No turn around, life begins out on my own. Follow the sun from day to day, free as a bird. Now is the time to spread my wings out on my own. Come to the conclusion I am in control. Take it with my body and my soul. I can fly over mountains, over seas. I never felt so free in the choices of my life. I can fly over mountains, over seas. I never felt so free in the choices of my life. Closing the door, leaving behind all that has been. Now is the time to spread my wings out on my own. Come to the conclusion I am in control. Take it with my body and my soul. I can fly over mountains, over seas. I never felt so free in the choices of my life. I can fly over mountains, over seas. I never felt so free in the choices of my life. Free in the choices of my life. Free in the choices of my life.
Miss you, Shanda. So that video, funny enough, I believe is from Disney. It's from a ride called Soarin' Above the World. And I took my kids on it in November, and it is a trip because they have it on this massive screen that you're standing in front of, and they lift you up in the air, and you're literally flying, and your feet, it feels like your feet are going to touch the top of the Great Pyramids in Giza and Neuschwanstein, and you see all these incredible places. They've even got more than that, and they lift you. You're in this seat, like harnessed in, and you're up there, and your feet are dangling, and it really feels like holy. Like your senses are really messed up there. So yeah, that's an amazing video. And again, the Fuck Cancer collection is available at the Indie News shop. You can go to IndieNewsNow.com and click on the merch link, and it's right at the top. You can get a t-shirt, you can get a tank top, you can get a hoodie, And those are the 4 items that we have in there. I've asked them to put a sticker in there. I haven't seen it available yet in the shop. I need to reach out to Ryan again over at Big Frog for that. And of course, I always want to remind people that Shanda, of course, is and was an Indie Media Award honoree for excellence in live streaming and podcasting. Completely self-taught with Oz. Did her own live streaming, engineering, editing, the whole shebang. And we miss her greatly. And Beauty and the Boomer, will never be the same. And Saturday nights won't be the same. And I hope at some point that Oz decides he wants to come back and maybe do another show. I know he's talked about it, and we'll see if that ends up happening or not. I wanted to mention one other thing that happened this week. And I don't talk about this very often, but I spent a lot of years. I'm a big racing fan, NASCAR. And I spent a lot of years watching racing and even attending races. And my family at one point had a very small sponsorship in the truck series of NASCAR, which is the lowest series and the cheapest barrier to entry possible. And we had an in with a team. And at the time, there was this young Cup driver, and he was starting a truck series team, and he was really giving back to the grassroots. And he'd always come and he'd race in the lower series, and he'd clean up. I mean, he's one of the best drivers in the world, and he would, again, it would give the young drivers someone to aspire to race against and teach them about how to race like the best do in the equipment that they have. And that guy was Kyle Busch, and Kyle Busch died this week. It's still messing me up. He's 41 years old, and he was supposed to race in the Coca-Cola 600. And he raced last week at the All-Star race in Dover. And he has been coaching his 11-year-old son, Brexton, who's also being groomed to become a professional race car driver. And the bond they share was incredible. And the contribution that he made to the sport of racing in different facets, in funding race teams when nobody wanted to. What a loss and what a tragedy. And I don't really make mention. I know I talked about Greg Biffle when he was killed in the plane crash last winter. This was even weirder because he was still physically in his prime and racing. And Kyle, he apparently had like some kind of flu-like symptoms and pneumonia that developed quickly into sepsis. And he, and like within hours of them announcing that he had been rushed to the hospital, they were making an announcement that he was dead. So, I felt really, it was really weird to see all the ceremonies and the tributes this weekend at the race, to watch his son stand there and have to kind of absorb all of this. It was a lot, for a father, makes you think about legacy and your own time, and don't take any of it for granted is all I'm saying. Yeah, I know you don't care about Kyle Busch, and a lot of people, again, it's not about condolences to the family, like this is, perfectly healthy 41-year-old guy, 100 millionaire who had a lot to give still and a lot left. And that it's just a damn shame, man. And I didn't want to go without mentioning it because it's important to me, and I got to throw that in sometimes. So thanks for indulging me. Support all those incredible causes. Support Shanda. Again, any proceeds, any profits that we make from that are going to go towards her GoFundMe and then toward cancer research once they close that out. And again, I love you all. Support independent media because we need it more than ever. And I will see you next Tuesday, fam. Where do we go? Hey. All right. Love you all. Night, everyone.
I think I liked it better being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
My favorite songs don't hit the same way. I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say? So
I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want?